The Ryan and Ryan Power Hour podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.
So am I still waiting for this world to stop hating? Can't find a good reason, can't find hope to believe in.
Welcome back to Ryan and Ryan here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
We finished the National League. Now we're moving on to the American League as we look at the Los Angeles Angels.
Who just got interesting news that Josh Hamilton will not be suspended today.
Oh, is that right? Well, that's interesting.
I know the Angels are pretty pissed off at him, though.
I'm sure they are, and they have every right to be.
I'm pretty sure they have if he probably violated something in his contract, that they could probably suspend him if they want, because I'm sure they don't want to pay him.
Right. Their rotation looks like this. It's not much different than what it was last year.
Other than Andrew Heaney being in it.
Right. They have Jared Weaver, Garrett Richards, who is still out currently.
I like Garrett Richards. He was a good pitcher.
I do, too. He did really well last year. C.J. Wilson, Matt Shoemaker, and Hector Santiago, who used to be with the White Sox.
Yeah, he's a good swing man. Oh, and then don't forget Tyler Skaggs is out for the season with Tommy John surgery.
Yes, Tyler Skaggs, another Tommy John victim, and then, of course, Andrew Heaney is there.
If you think about it, they've got a pretty solid rotation. The only problem is last year all their guys were getting injured.
Right.
Let's see, Richards, Skaggs, Wilson were all injured last year. It was literally just Weaver.
Yeah, it's just Weaver doing his thing. He's still a pretty solid pitcher, too.
Santiago's a really solid swingman. I remember he was really good for the White Sox as a swingman because he's good at starting and he's got good left-hand option out of the bullpen.
The closer is Houston Street. He's the Angels' closer.
Yeah, the Angels do have the thinnest farm system in the game because they keep trading it all to acquire these guys at the deadline because they know it's winter now. If they can't win with these guys now, that's probably not going to happen because they got money tied up late in their careers like Pujols and Hamilton. Right.
They have Joe Smith. Mike Morin is there. I'm talking about the bullpen. Fernando Salas.
They got him in the David Freese trade last year with the Cardinals.
Cesar Ramos. And they have Vinny Pastano. I remember him. I think he was with the Twins at one point.
That's actually not a bad bullpen. That's a pretty solid pitching staff. I mean, I know they don't really have much depth at AAA, so really their depth is probably needs to be you go and sign a bunch of veterans to keep it AAA.
Scott Snodgrass is also there.
He was bad with the White Sox.
So there you go. That's what the bullpen looks like. The catcher still is Chris Iannetta.
Do you know who Tyler Chatwood is?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Starting pitcher with the Rockies, was one of their Angels' top prospects at one point.
Yeah.
And he was been pretty good with the Rockies. I know he needed Tommy John surgery last year. 2 years ago, he was really good. They traded that guy, just Chatwood, straight up for Chris Iannetta. I'm wondering why they would trade such a good pitching prospect just for an average catcher like Iannetta, a guy that'll hit like 220.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. But anyway, he's their catcher. Third base, as we said, was
Who's
David
the backup
Freese.
catcher?
Looks like it's Drew Butera.
That's right. They got him from the Dodgers because I know they traded Hank Conger because they had some catching depth. He had David Freese is at third base, and it sounds like he's going to leave the Angels are going to let him leave as a free agent.
Probably.
Because I remember they acquired a third base prospect from the Braves.
That would be something that the White Sox maybe want to keep their eye on.
Yeah, since third base has pretty much been a problem for them.
Right.
For a while.
Not that David Freese is great, but he's definitely an upgrade from
Connor Gillespie
or Matt Davidson or whoever they're going to put there.
Yeah, whoever else they're going to throw there. I mean, I know the Angels probably didn't get the return on that they were expecting from Freese because I think he only hit like 8 home runs for him last year with a 260 average. So I think they feel that it's time to either sign some sort of veteran in free agency or hope that prospect they acquired from the Braves is ready to be at least an average third baseman that they will be probably about the same with much better team-friendly salary.
A utility guy that can play third, short, and second.
Is it Grant Green?
Grant Green, right now it says second base, but Josh Rutledge can play third, short, and second.
That's a solid option. I guess they decided that he's younger, And he's probably an upgrade over Gordon Beckham as a utility player.
Right. Shortstop, Eric Ibar. Second base is Giovatello. What's his first name?
Johnny Giovatello. They got him from the Royals, where a lot of Royals fans were really upset that he left. And I looked, he wasn't like the greatest player. He must have just been one of those fan guys.
One of those fan favorites.
Yeah.
Albert Pujols, of course, is still the first baseman.
Did it say who the designated hitter is, or is there no DH there?
Matt Joyce is the DH.
That's right. They got him in a trade with the Rays, and obviously they don't have the greatest offensive depth.
And a backup that can be the DH or first baseman is C.J. Cron.
That's right. Okay, I knew there was missing some other name that had some sort of power. Yeah, they've got some pretty solid guys. I mean, it's a good mixture of young and old guys. And older veterans. The only problem is the young guys aren't like top prospects anymore. They're not like really great prospects.
Right. Left field, Josh Hamilton, but probably, at least starting the season, it will be Colin Cowgill maybe.
Yeah, that's probably, Hamilton I don't think he's played at all this spring, so right. he'll need a lot of time to get groomed.
Center field, I'm not quite sure who this guy
Cole
is.
Calhoun.
I'm not quite sure who this center fielder is. Mike Trout?
That guy.
I've never heard of him. Hopefully he has a good year. And then Cole Calhoun in right field. So
I like Cole Calhoun. He's a good player. Yeah, and it was interesting that they let J.B. Shuck leave as a free agent because he had a great spring with the White Sox.
Yes, and that's the guy last week I was trying to think of, the guy that the White Sox got from the Angels. Yeah, it was J.B. Shuck. He's a pretty good outfield option.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they let him leave, unless they non-tendered him because they didn't want to pay him a big salary, which, I mean, he'd probably be a solid backup option. I'm sure now with the Hamilton suspension, they wish they had a little more outfield depth. Or maybe they just decided that they chose Matt Joyce over him.
Right. All right, moving over to the team that lost to the Royals in dramatic fashion in the wild card game last year, the Oakland Athletics.
Thank you for Addison Russell.
Their team got progressively worse this year.
They replaced.
It's not horrible, but it's
they replaced
bad.
Josh Donaldson and Brandon Moss with Ike Davis and Billy Butler. Oh, and then they traded Derek Norris too.
Right.
So they replaced those guys.
Not very good.
Billy Butler and Ike Davis. A lot of cost-controlled options.
And they lost a lot of their bullpen that pushed them into the playoffs.
Right. They did acquire Tyler Clippard, though. Yeah, they lost Luke Gregerson.
The starting rotation, which they lost some people, but they still have Sonny Gray and Scott Kazmir. Jesse Hahn is there.
They got him from the Padres.
Kendall Graveman and Drew Pomeranz. And Jared Parker, of course, is out.
And so is A.J. Griffin. I did read that Kevin Graveman did win the fifth starter spot.
Okay, so
they acquired him from the Blue Jays in the Josh Donaldson trade.
It says Jared Parker is targeting a June return from Tommy John surgery.
Oh, wow. Because he had it in early spring training last year.
So that's what they're saying. And, A.J. Griffin, he had Tommy John surgery in April 2014, so it'll be a little longer before he comes back. Catcher, Stephen Vogt.
But I don't know how to pronounce it. That G there makes it annoying to figure out how to pronounce.
Right. Who knows? And then, of course, their backup is Josh Fegley.
Yeah, they got him in the Samardzija trade. Now, it's kind of interesting, though, with Vaught, because last year he played catcher, first base, and outfield. So he's obvious. So he was kind of, I remember they did have three catchers because they had Derek Norris and Soto as the main catchers, and then Vaught would back up occasionally, having a third catcher in case for pinch hitting situations.
Third base is Brett Lawrie.
Obviously, a key third baseman to get in return in the Josh Donaldson deal.
Marcus Semien, also from the White Sox, looks like he's going to be the starting shortstop. Either him or Eric Sogard.
Yeah, Sogard. Yeah, Sogard probably won't be starting. He doesn't hit for a high enough average. Semien had a really good spring, and I did read that. I mean, he's got some pretty decent power, like to hit 15 home runs.
Second base, the newly acquired Ben Zobrist.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be playing multiple positions as well.
Right, and then, of course, their first baseman, Ike Davis, who is a newcomer for them.
Yikes. And then their DH is Billy Butler.
More like Yike Davis instead of Ike Davis.
Yeah, he wasn't even good in a hitter's ballpark.
Coco Crisp was out for up
couple
to
weeks.
8 weeks.
Yeah,
says.
with elbow injury.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out who their starting outfielder would be. Sam Fold is their starting center fielder.
No.
That's what it says, anyway.
Oh, man, that's going to be
Craig
a long
Gentry is a possibility to start, I guess, for them in left field instead of Coco Crisp, unless they move Fold there and then put Gentry in center.
Oh, no. Do they have a decent guy in right field at least?
Yeah, Josh Reddick.
Oh, yeah, he's going to miss the start of the season. He said he's not going to be ready for opening day.
So they really have a very scarce outfield.
They don't have much depth. I'm sure Ben.
They have this guy Mark Canha, I've never heard of. But he's a possibility.
Do they have John Jaso still?
It doesn't look like it.
Okay, I had a feeling they traded him. I guess they might have to throw Vogt or Zobrist in the outfield for a couple games and have Sogard play second. Because, I mean, they're really thin.
I know.
They've got guys that can play multiple positions. The only problem is they don't really have enough of those guys or quality guys.
Their bullpen, Sean Doolittle is out until May. He hopes to return in May anyway. But they have Tyler Clippard, who is from the Nationals, obviously. Eric O'Flaherty, who I think was...
Former Braves pitcher, had two Tommy John surgeries.
They have Fernando Abad, who I think was on the Nationals too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
They have Dan Oterio, Ryan Cook.
Oh, that's a solid option.
Yeah, that is. They also have Jesse Chavez, who I think he's been there for a few years.
Yeah,
so their bullpen is
the pitching staff is in a better situation than the offense is, because also throwing the fact that they don't really have much of a farm system. They traded it all away last year.
Speaking of a team that does have a farm system, the Houston Astros are next on our list to discuss the rotation. They have Dallas Keuchel, Scott Feldman.
I really want to know why it's pronounced Keuchel when it literally looks like Kuchel.
That's what I want to know. Well, I remember during Fantasy Fanatics, I said Kuchel all the way up until until the season was almost over when I figured out it was Keuchel. I was like, Keuchel.
When you hear Keuchel, you think that they're talking about another guy. That's how much of a difference it is.
Their third guy, according to this, is Asher Wojciechowski.
Where's Colin McHugh?
Colin McHugh is listed as their fourth man right now.
And Scott Feldman's number 2?
Feldman's number 2, and number 5 here, Roberto Hernandez, they're saying. And, of course, he was with the Phillies
last year and the Dodgers, and he was very bad.
I'm sure he was. He was with the Phillies. Their catcher, Hank Conger is their backup guy.
I assume that it's Jason Castro starting.
It is. He
Jason needs to have a bounce-back season and stay healthy.
Third base, former Cub Luis Valbuena,
who they got in the Dexter Fowler trade. I miss Valbuena a lot. I understand that some infielder had to be traded when they got La Stella.
Yes. I get it. I liked Valbuena too. But shortstop Jed Lowry,
who they re-signed from the Athletics.
Second base, the very good Jose Altuve.
You know, it's kind of interesting with the Athletics. I remember the Athletics traded for Lowry. They traded a lot, and one of the main pieces was Chris Carter.
Right, and he's their starting first baseman.
And now Lowry comes back it seems like the Oakland Athletics, their guys tend to go back to other teams. Cubs trade Samardzija to them, and then they just send him back to Chicago.
Their DH is Evan Gattis. So
is Chris Carter the first baseman then?
Chris Carter is the first baseman.
Because I know they sent down Jonathan Singleton.
Left field, Kobe Rasmus.
They signed him to an $8 million contract in the offseason. He's got power, however, he just doesn't have much of an average.
Center field is Jake Marisnick,
who they got in the Jared Cozart trade from the Marlins last year. They're hoping that he hasn't really... his experience at the big league level, he hasn't been that great, so I guess they're kind of hoping that he's been groomed enough that he could start.
And right field is George Springer,
who has almost as much swing and miss to his game as Javier Baez.
Yes, he does. The bullpen looks like this. Luke Gregerson is the closer. They have
Pat Neshek is a solid option who they signed in the offseason.
Pat Neshek, Chad Qualls is still there.
Man, that's another old name.
They have Tony Sipp.
Good left-handed option who they got from the Diamondbacks.
Will Harris is there. and let's see who this guy is. Joe Thatcher and Samuel DeDuno, who I think was from Minnesota.
He was. I remember he was designated for assignment.
So that's what that looks like.
So, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's on paper.